Number 2 here. And that is Sky Temple, chosen by Team Freedom. Not a surprise there. Team Freedom has felt pretty comfortable, you know, kind of taking us to a map like this. I would also say, judging by some of the Eastern meta practices, I think Sky Temple will be a map that shows up a little bit more. Generally speaking, I would say this is very much like a, if you feel like you're the confident team, you pick Sky Temple. It's easy to get an advantage, easy to be able to kite around. That in mind, keep in mind that for the first 13 minutes, that was not not Team Freedom winning that game. It was one brilliant fight and turnaround, and then suddenly they gained control and did what Freedom does best.
It is what they do best, but it also is around they like the macro play. Infernal Shrine, Sky Temple, their 2 most played battlegrounds, their most successful battlegrounds, and so no surprise that they picked that up. See what No Tomorrow opts to try and play. Will we see the Maiev let through, which so far teams have been much more okay with letting the Maiev through now than we saw at Western Clash and obviously the last week we had in Week 5.
She's received a round of nerfs from that kind of transition, but that's not the live version of Maiev, ladies and gentlemen. Keep that in mind. I believe we're still sitting on the 9-second vault time.
Not enough.
I mean,
So
honestly, you could set it. That and Medivh, those two are the ones where I just kind of go, you know, you could make it to where the trade-off is drastically different, and I'd still think the character is relevant in meta. Talking about the Medivh, though, he was taken away. Nobody wants to deal with those portals. Garrosh also removed here for Team Freedom.
You know, I think Maiev obviously could be high priority, but we also have to keep in mind that Malfurion's been there, especially if you want to go Tracer. But what it did leave is Genji, and that's something Lutano did really well on in the early part of this year. So if they don't want to go the Hanzo, which may not be as strong here on Sky Temple, they have that available too.
If someone goes the Genji, I'm just going to ask you now before it's even an option, does the Uther get picked up with it, or do we just act like that hero still doesn't
Malv,
exist?
I mean, you can always go Malv.
If you have the Malv,
if you have
maybe.
it. But they highly prioritized the Tyrael Blaze, which was really strong at Western Clash.
Yeah, I mean, well, there she is. You know, surprise, surprise. Don't fix if it isn't broken. Tyrael Blaze. All right, what do we want to see in response? There's an Arthas. Interesting choice.
They're going Illidan after because it's what Equinox does. Look, if Abathur gets let through, you're seeing Abathur Illidan. You ready for it?
Supportless?
Oh, wait, never mind.
Okay.
Yes.
Supportless.
Yeah, that's all Dignitas do it. Sure, No Tomorrow can.
Okay. All right. So it's already day 1, and I'm already struggling to put up with Jay-How here, ladies and gentlemen. Stick with us. You know, it's okay. It's something. We'll get it through it together.
What's that you just wrote? I still love you, Jay-How. Just kidding. Oh, okay. Okay, that's cool.
All right. Malfurion's being hovered here for Freedom. Would indicate a priority into the Stukov. They end up going with the Stukov. What else would you? I mean, in terms of a backliner at that point in time, they have the option to move into the Tracer, but you don't ban the Malfurion if that's your intent. So.
Oh, by the way, I would Illidan into Tyrael Blaze and probably an Uther, unless Uther's banned here. I would say it's not fun.
Yeah?
Like, at all.
That's the words we're going with. Not fun.
Not fun. Yeah.
Interesting. I also think with the Tychus already taken up, you have no instant blow-up potential onto Arthas. You have to be considering melee-oriented compositions. There goes the removal of Uther. Or, excuse me, not Uther, but the Genji. So no double invul, kind of hyper-carry strategy available for Team Freedom. But I was going to say, in terms of their backliner, what can accent the Tyrael and the invulnerability being provided? Probably still just the Hanzo, right? Just sit back in the backline, have Lutano wailing away. It doesn't have as much kill potential in the 4, and especially the early game skirmishes, but I feel like, again, Team Freedom looked pretty good with it last game. They were able to turn around that miracle fight with a lot of good Hanzo arrows from Lutano.
I think if they want to go a Greymane route, I'd be okay with that.
Okay.
Hanzo's strong, but I think that if they're worried about a potential Tracer coming out against them, save your support. Maybe look for a Kharazim. It's something that Collusion's played a lot of and looked extremely well on.
Have you ever watched a Scattering Arrow try and clear out Army of the Dead?
Ooh. Or just take the Tracer yourself.
Or just take the Tracer yourself. Interesting fact that is after the Malfurion ban, though. You have every shot in the world to pick up that Malfurion for yourself, for that Tracer. Yes, Stukov is debatably the second best at kind of enabling that, but this is curious, especially with having a double deterrent for survivability, which you normally ask for when you have the Malfurion.
So Freedom needs a lot more because you cannot go Tassel. You're having a hard time killing Tychus. You're having a hard time killing Arthas. Maiev has a vault. Uther has armor he can spread around. You need a lot more than Tracer to do something, anything. Tracer struggles into this style of composition.
Yeah, no, she very much does. I do think there's enough left on that last slot, but I personally feel like with the Stukov kind of adjustment and that priority with the Malfurion ban opting in towards that, that is going to be mixed with some of the Tracer conundrum over the other side. I mean, we got an Uther, but not necessarily the situation nor the priority I would have expected it. And Dahaka is the last here for No Tomorrow. It's been a first time here to show for HGC North America.
To me, this has to be Greymane. I'm looking at Lutano is the Tracer player. Yoda, Tassadar, Abathur, Jaina, Medivh, Malthael, Falstad, Tyrael. Obviously, he can play a wide range of heroes, even the Li Ming. But burst damage against an Uther style with a bunker, with Maiev who can use Vault, with Dahaka. Maybe use the Jaina to bait one or the other out and then try and follow up on that, because it's going to be extremely difficult getting those burst style kills. I
agree with you, and I feel like what it mainly does for me, from my kind of thought process and how this is approached, I mean, post 10, share all the same sentiments. It goes, Jaina, you have a task ahead of you, and it's about as hard as, you know, kind of running the Tracer into the Garrosh. It's a skill matchup. You have to play it better than the opponent, and otherwise you're going to have a hard time. But it's Tracer, Jaina do have insane kill potential over that first shrine phase. Sky Temple is now a map that, if it didn't support this playstyle before, it surely does now. Win over the first objective, don't have, you know, poor transitions, and as long as you're that good there, get a couple of kills elsewhere, it's likely you can still win this game without having macro, even giving the global advantage over the other side. That in mind, if you end up struggling over that first shrine phase and you've committed that much to the team fight, and your team fight post 10 isn't that reliable, and you're losing the global, it's, I mean, if in the world of simple machines, your fulcrum on your, you know, lever is colossal. That's the thing that everything sits on, the triangle. Okay.
Go on.
I was just trying to explain simple machines.
Tell me more about the fulcrum, Dreadnought.
Anyways, it gets what that means is there's a light amount of pressure, and suddenly everything can cascade against you.
I don't know. After the show, can you maybe?
I'm done.
You know, go home, start up your stream, show us what a fulcrum is in stream.
I've already streamed this year. I'm not going to be able to do it again. Maybe you guys will catch me. Anyways, we're ready here for Game 2 between No Tomorrow and Team Freedom.
Freedom up 1-0, Dreadnought, and they're going to try and make it 2-0 with a Tracer and Jaina as the backline. We don't have the same type of aggression that we had from No Tomorrow in Game 1, but you got to feel that early game is not in their favor unless they get those big stun lockdowns. And I think it requires Blaze, obviously Jaina, and Stukov to really make that happen.
For me, the first fight, normally, standard practice, you know, outside of any kind of wild hair on a map like Sky Temple. The first shrine phase hits. Whoever controls vision controls a majority of the shots over mid. Whoever collapses over to vision then looks for an initiation. Otherwise, it kind of very much hinders your approach to a fight. Arthas and Jaina provide equal-ish kind of kill potential at different parts of the map. The biggest thing is who makes that rotation to top and who makes it with the opportunity for kill potential, because I feel like that is really going to be the thing that sets this team apart from one another, and whether or not the Jaina pick is going to be worth it. That can either be on the side of Team Freedom, Jaina Tracer making the transition towards that top half, or maybe a Dahaka Arthas that are holding their own by themselves. And on the other side, it's got to be the Arthas and the Dahaka for that, you know, kind of all-in initiation. Also, Uther has to be where Jaina is. There is no way they can risk having the Uther separated over that first shrine.
I would have loved to have seen Tyrael disrupt that rotation down. Dahaka had already used his global to obtain vision. And with Jaina pushing that in, you would have been able to deny some of that experience to that bottom lane. I think they were a little bit more passive, waiting on that. Instead, No Tomorrow did make the rotation down, did neutralize that bottom lane push. Now, 1 minute into the game, we'll see teams start their focus, and we see very different focus from both teams. We see No Tomorrow starting their Siege Giants, and we see Team Freedom starting their Knights. We'll see who wants to be aggressive with those first.
Looking at the compositions, This is actually a really curious one. Normally, when you look at the early, taking the Knights and the Giants, you go, well, do you have better siege, anti-siege? And the answer is yes in the favor of Team Freedom. But then when you look for the early Knights versus later Knights, the later Knights generally goes to the team with the global. Granted, with No Tomorrow not getting the invade on that Giants, or at least protecting the Giants down below, now I give a big advantage over to Freedom. But let's say they play this a little bit different. It's actually one of the moments where it's kind of like a, well, you have an advantage on this side, we have it on the other. Who can, you know, with a skill matchup, get more out of this? But playing it slow, or at least safer, is going to be No Tomorrow, and they transition up, worry about the Knights. They'll back up to their own Knight camp whenever it is safe for them to get that, and then see how much work Equinox can do there on the Dahaka with that split pressure. This is actually one of the biggest differences, I would say, between Western and Eastern play, without a doubt. Not only at the, wow, Jin caught out here up in mid. That's first blood over for Freedom. Great job cutting out that collapse you were talking about before. But the, wow, the pull from Equinox, almost enough to get the kill.
Almost, but not enough. Jaina ended up being left alone down there as Uther was forced to respond. Now she's been able to escort the minions all the way forward. That's going to be some key structure damage that we'll see coming out there for Freedom.
That's exactly what I was going to talk about. Is the fact that Jaina was left alone in that, right? She was left to a 1 versus 1 originally. Normally, compared to, if you know, again, towards the Eastern meta, it will be at least a 3-man defense onto those type of things and not giving anything up. Scouting out over the wall is going to be Team Freedom. That was more of just like a, hey, you need to cap this right now, than it was any intent to actually get an invade. But with the 7 talents here, Team Freedom should be looking to majority of the shots on mid, then looking to collapse with that 7 advantage, making sure they don't give up anything. This is a huge setback now for No Tomorrow. But I want to bring to light, again, rotations to top, the kill potential within that. I think that's really going to be crucial, especially for Freedom now that they've got a pretty big upper hand at this point in the game.
And a lot of it, as you said before, is controlling the eye, controlling the vision. You could see No Tomorrow was able to walk in, take control of that, and it forced Freedom off, especially due to the fact that Dahaka was clearing the bot lane. Blaze was forced to respond. So No Tomorrow, in terms of pacing, in terms of control over the last 30 or 40 seconds, using that vision and using that camp, seemed to be gaining a little bit of control, and Equinox is looking for more.
Ends up getting the drag onto Collusion. Unable to make it out there after a nice job there. Once again, using that brush stalker, being effective with the rotations. That was a 5-man collapse towards that top shrine, just to get that 1 kill here for on the side of No Tomorrow. Look at the minion wave, though, on bottom. That's a lot of experience being missed out on. I'm going to be honest, Jay-How, I don't have the calculator in front of me to do the math, but I'm going to say that that is close enough to not worth that I actually feel like No Tomorrow's got to be second-guessing that rotation.
Yeah, I mean, they committed to it. They already had control of that temple, and that was what was surprising, is that the Dahaka wasn't needed, it was wanted.
I'm trying to figure out how many minions he lost. Probably 5, I think, 5 to 6 down there. It probably was still advantageous, but it's one of those, with 4 people making the collapse, was that necessary mixed with how much information you were giving up? It looks good because they end up getting the kill, but it's one of those, again, kind of keeping your eyes on that type of stuff. Is this worth the trade-off? Is this worth the resources? And it's stuff like that that I think was why Team Freedom was able to come back in the last game, right? It's just they punish those small mistakes whenever they're, you know, timed conveniently enough for them to actually make those kind of big turnaround plays.
Well, Team Freedom turning it around there as they forced the response bottom, then decided to push top using that Tyrael push. Grenade hitting Lutano as he is on the way out. Get a little bit of holy shock action going on there from Tomster. Just threatening Lutano, letting him know that danger is abound. As we see Team Freedom looking to take their Siege Giants. Jen, not going to make it in on time.
Not able to make it in on time, and he already used his Icebound Fortitude. Cleanse dropped, but enough damage is there from Yoda after a nice Blizzard. Now getting the slow on a Casanova, forcing the Vault. Able to dodge that last Q, and actually the only reason he's able to survive there. Very well done on the timing of that Vault. The reason I say that is, like, for instance, if Cone of Cold came out and you saw the dodge on that, Iceland still would have hit at the maximum range. It was the only thing that they could have gotten, that kind of chain CC enough to get a kill. So clean play here from No Tomorrow.
Freedom taking advantage of that. They have 10 now. They already opened up this bottom lane. This should be a free fort for them before the next temple phase starts here in about 15 seconds. But due to the timing of the first wave, normally you'll see teams try and make a play around that. We've got Tyrael. He just used Sanctification mid. Zugrug.
Even if he survives that cooldown being down during this next objective, that is a very big, you know, kind of detriment towards them over this next objective. No Tomorrow can't waste any time, though. They need to capitalize on making sure they consume the shots as fast as possible. Jin, the substitute here for this week, looking to step in, get those for the squad. You know, that being said, so far, you know, especially last game, we had them on a new Barak for Jin, right? He had a lot of amazing kind of setups for the team. Because, again, this guy is a sub walking in here, stepping up, playing with the team, kind of not for the first time ever, but definitely not compared to, you know, the normal roster whereas we would have had Jason, and he's really shown up so far. We haven't got too much from him here, but there hasn't been too much action, at least yet, here on Sky.
It's because Team Freedom is constantly finding ways to force out rotations elsewhere. Instead of fighting over that bottom shrine or bottom temple, they opted to move up and start a rotation. They picked up a camp. This fort will eventually fall behind this camp here in just a moment, if not before. So Freedom forcing that out. Arthas just now finished up the channel. He'll come up top in a moment, but before then, Casanova under assault here on Team Freedom.
Well, he's going to go be used. Vault over at Warden's Cage bunker as well to get through that Warden's Cage, but the Divine Shield ends up keeping No Tomorrow alive. Good job, Thompson there to drop that cooldown, make sure everybody makes it out. But Freedom, they're comfortable with the fact that that didn't really cost them that much to get that initiation, and now stacking the double Night Camp on top. Equinox maybe out bit too far, body blocking from Zugrug. Jin with that huge flank here on the Arthas, but he realizes that's a position that they don't want. Everybody trying to retreat in, but also zone out Team Freedom.
Shrite already has the Odin out, and when you have this much pressure against you, it's almost necessary. Big lurking arm there by Collusion, zoning out just about everybody as Team Freedom. They're not going to take one tower, they're going to take two and put themselves even closer to 13. Structurally, right now, things are really in Freedom's favor.
Yeah, they very much are. And when you're ahead in structures and you're ahead so far on, I mean, with experience as well, this is very much becoming Team Freedom's game to lose, if you will. Sky Temple is one of the few maps that I do feel, you know, sets you in a position to kind of be like, it's not that it's your game to lose, or it's not that you will 100% win that game, but it is more you have to make a mistake, right? You've got to blatantly do something that objectively kind of doesn't make sense to the math problem that is competitive heroes.
I want to see if it ends up being a we got to get this boss fight, right? Because you got Sanctification on one side, you got Big Lurking Arm, but you also got Warden's Cage.
There's no Holy Ground,
on the
so
other.
it becomes a lot more competitive.
Yeah. Right now, Freedom just flexing on him with level 13, taking all the camps, and they have painted this map blue. Now they're going to look to turn their attention towards the temples. With that being active, Shrite ends up getting the D shield. He didn't have 13, so he did not have Neo Steel coating, which is normally the counter.
Now maybe wanting the Divine Shield is going to be Casanova after using that Shadow, able to make it over the wall. Drops down to Warden's Cage. Equinox kind of checking in there with that brush stock. Double camp still pressuring bottom. It's going to demand the response of Jin to the bottom lane. This is a feels bad Arthas moment. Not necessarily the easiest of clears in the world. Takes a while. Jay Shrite looking to join in, but that meanwhile is losing them a lot of shots elsewhere on the map. I will say on the world of is that Divine Shield the time or the place, it was risky. Even if he holds off on the Divine Shield and uses it at a more optimal time, like, I don't even want to say more optimal, but uses that at a different time, I feel like the results would have been near the same. So it's more of, do you use it at all? And I feel like in that situation, it was reasonable to assume they might be able to get an all-in turnaround after that many cooldowns had been used by Team Freedom. But obviously, you're losing the original initiation.
Here comes that panic call, Dread. They're on the boss. I think they have
Look
to.
how little interest they have. They
This
just
is
go
Freedom.
straight to top keep.
You wonder why Freedom picked Infernal Shrines? You wonder why Freedom picked Sky Temple? They can find ways to avoid a lot of what else is going. You give them a little, it will open this up. And
I love this. This is one of my favorite moments where a team just goes, what if we don't? Whenever you make a panic call like that on the side of No Tomorrow, they go, okay, well, that's a top keep. How much does the boss really get you at this state of the game?
I bet it barely even gets a gate.
It barely does. You know, I once tried to make a video to educate the population on how impactful those are. Don't think I did the best of jobs in the world, but watch this lone little puppy. You know, he's going to move up. This is before the turrets.
Can we get some sad music to play along
yeah,
with
it's
this guy?
just like, and he's not going to get too much done.
All right, hold on, let's just watch. So far, he's got half a gate.
Keep in mind that this is because of the brilliant shot calling out of team.
Oh, yeah. It's like, if you're on Black Hearts Bay, a map not in the HGC rotation, you know the enemy team is on the top side of the map, just push bottom lane.
Yeah.
Just push bottom lane. It's the easiest call you can make. It trades out. That thing literally got a gate, Dread. A gate.
The only way to stop that, too, is if No Tomorrow's willing to take a fight, which you just kissed the 16 talents here. There's no way they try and move that. If you move that far out on the side of No Tomorrow, it's just, okay, we'll kill you and then win the game if that's what you really want to do. Team Freedom showing off the macro strength. See, it shows up at moments. It's just not, you know, I think the best way to describe the shift of the game is it used to be the macro set up a lose-lose team fight, but now the team fight sets up a lose-lose macro. Is the best way to put it. You always got to be able to take that team fight first.
You know, it was interesting enough that the week 5, there was a team that probably ran one of the best, most paced and comfortable Sky Temple strategies you will ever see. Just so happens that it's LFM, the new guys on the block. And it's weird to say that, but if you have an understanding of something like Sky Temple and the way to play around it and the way that you can manipulate rotations, we actually saw this at the Eastern Clash, where if the next temple phase is a single temple phase, you could essentially give up the entire thing if you're on the side of Team Freedom. That's how far ahead you are.
We watched KSV give up, I think it was like 2 full temples at some point in time. Because they were just structurally and experience-wise so far ahead. It is very much, again, a map that asks you to make the mistake, not the other way around. Otherwise, it is catered to kind of trickling in. Outside of those kind of freak experience, even talent tiers, oh man, this boss has to happen now situations. Nasmus and friends trying to scout out in case they'd find themselves a wild Dahaka. Equinox, aware of the situation, already made it back towards that keep.
It's just forcing rotations. I mean, if you ever watch a Puppet Master, Team Freedom is literally making No Tomorrow dance right now. That is how strong they are on this battleground and how much in control they are. They show multiple people in the bottom. It's nice that No Tomorrow goes up to clean it, but this is just Freedom controlling the rotations.
If I was to nitpick, I will say that multiple people walking in the eye right there, where it was maybe
I know, right? Just put one.
Where it was not maybe necessary, and at this point of the game, playing with information. Team Freedom's got the world on their side, but I'm always looking for what can they do more? Where can they get the catch up here? Nice lurking arm up in that choke. Jin is punished. Equinox now coming out with that brush dock, not able to land a drag. Not going to send one out even. Top camp still pressuring, 6 seconds away from that top shrine, that temple here for Freedom. This is going to be a clear for No Tomorrow. They push out the wave. They hope the information remains on their side and then get a collapse initiation. It's the best chances for them at all around this top shrine. Freedom identify this. They back out. If anything, oh, Jin and friends, they're so split moving through that choke. They need to be careful. Nasmus can cut them off so hard.
Yoda coming in with a big flank on the backside.
Look at that bait.
They're going in. You could see Lutano and Yoda on the backside, but on the front side of things, Jin is under assault. He's staying alive, but not much longer. There's a big stun by Nasmus as Jaina comes in with a follow-up. Yoda bringing the pain as that's 4 members of No Tomorrow falling. I don't think they need this Temple Dread.
Thompson are going to go ahead and drop the dance even there. Rest of Team Freedom, they march to the core, and this is going to be a quick game 2. And you heard me immediately go, oh, the bait. And that kind of moment of, oh, this fight is already over before it started. What I'm highlighting, or what I was trying to highlight there, is No Tomorrow. Notice how that whole time, Team Freedom wanted that fight. You could tell that they wanted the fight, but they didn't start it the minute they see their opponents. They waited. They waited until 2 members got into the choke. That I was saying, well, a collapse fight is what you expect Simplicity to look for. But Team Freedom was just like, well, if you're going to split yourselves, yeah, we're going to be totally fine with that collapse. Because top and bottom on Sky Temple have 2 points of entry, 3 on top if you count it. But if you control the wave, then it's only 2. And then all you got to do is cut off those chokes, make it near impossible. And heroes like Tyrael, Jaina, Blaze, they really like those kind of really tight chokeholds, so it made it even that much easier. You watch that first Blizzard drop by Yoda, straight up didn't hit anything, didn't matter. It's just because as long as this is in the choke and they can't retreat out, it does not matter. The game is already over. Very well done. That was a moment where a team who has a lead shows control, but is actually, it's a bit more. That was very well done because they might not win that game if they only kill 2, but if you kill 4, I mean, you didn't even need a temple.
Looking back, No Tomorrow, when they played Team Freedom in week 4, when they were able to take that series victory, they actually banned Sky Temple out against Freedom. Maybe thinking they should have gone down that route again, but either way, we see 2-0 in favor of Freedom. Tough fought game number 1. No Tomorrow obviously bringing the fight to Freedom. I think we'll probably see more of that, maybe take Battleground control, but as the Battlegrounds start to limit themselves, Infernal, Sky are definitely 2 of the most played, most picked by Team Freedom. So I imagine now with the map pool limiting just a little bit, might be able for No Tomorrow to turn it around.
I think the biggest thing for No Tomorrow, if they're going to be able to turn around, is pick a map where they can't get out macro. Granted, we're kind of, running out of those. But either way, we got to go to a quick commercial break. And when we come back, ladies and gentlemen, we will have Game 3 here between No Tomorrow and Team Freedom.